One moment your house is quiet. The next, your dog is walking through the hallway with your sock like it just won a prize you didn't know you were giving away. Not chewing, not hiding. Just carrying it with this strange little sense of purpose. Other times, it's not so gentle. You come back and find the corner of a blanket shredded, the mail torn open, a loaf of bread gone, or your dog standing completely still with something in its mouth, watching you like it already knows what happens next. Most people call all of this one thing: bad behavior. But that label hides the real story. Because a dog sleeping on your hoodie, a dog baiting you with the TV remote, and a dog swallowing pieces of fabric are not doing the same thing at all. From the outside, it looks like stealing. From the inside, it could be comfort, play, instinct, stress, boredom, adolescent testing, or a problem that needs support. And the difference matters. Because if you respond to all of them the same way, you can easily make the behavior worse. This isn't a diagnosis, but it can help you tell the difference between normal attachment and behavior that may need support. And once you can tell the difference, your dog's strangest habits start making a lot more sense. This is Mr. Hidden Mind. And tonight, we're decoding what your dog is really doing when it takes something that belongs to you. First, there's the version people misunderstand the most: the quiet theft. Your dog takes a worn hoodie off the chair, drags it to its bed, turns once, and lies down on it like it belongs there. No destruction, no chaos, no guilty face, just contact. That kind of behavior usually isn't about rebellion. It's often about regulation. To a dog, your scent is not just a smell. It's information, safety, familiarity, a kind of emotional landmark. What humans experience as a personal object, dogs often experience as a concentrated piece of presence. That's why dogs under stress often gravitate toward used clothing, blankets, pillowcases, or the side of the bed where their person usually sleeps. They are not taking a souvenir. They are moving closer to the strongest comfort signal in the room. This is the first distinction most owners miss. Possession is not always the point. Sometimes the point is relief. And you can often see the difference in the dog's body language. A comfort-seeking dog usually looks softer. The movements are slower. The object is carried, nested with. He leaned against or slept on. Not paraded, not guarded, not destroyed. In real life, that matters. If your dog gently collects your scent-heavy items when left alone, the most useful question is not, "How do I stop the stealing?" It's, "What is my dog using this object to cope with?" That shift alone changes everything. Because instead of escalating the situation, you can start giving the dog a safer alternative: a designated blanket with your scent, a long-lasting chew before departures, a calmer exit routine, a predictable place to settle. Now, compare that to a very different scene. Your dog picks up your keys, looks straight at you, and waits. This one is not looking for comfort. This one is looking for something else. Engagement, not the keys, not the object. You. A lot of dogs learn very quickly that some items have unusual power. A slipper might get a sigh. A random toy gets ignored. But the remote, your glasses case, the thing you use every day, that gets your full attention. And from your dog's point of view, that's valuable. Especially if your reaction is big. You stand up fast. Your voice changes. You move toward the dog. Maybe you chase. Maybe you bargain. Maybe you laugh. Maybe you turn it into a dramatic rescue mission. And just like that, the object becomes a button your dog can press to make you fully appear. That's why some dogs don't run immediately. They pause. First, they're checking whether the game has started. And for many dogs, the game is not "I stole something." The game is "I can make you react." This is where people accidentally train the very behavior they hate. Not because they are careless, because they are human. When something important is in your dog's mouth, calm is not your first instinct, but unpredictability is powerful. If sometimes the dog gets chased, sometimes gets a treat, sometimes gets attention, and sometimes gets a full house-wide pursuit, the behavior can become even harder to extinguish. Because intermittent rewards are sticky. They keep behavior alive. In daily life, this is why drop it works better than panic. A rehearsed trade, a calm exchange, a predictable outcome that teaches the dog that releasing an item pays, whereas grabbing, cornering, or lunging can teach a very different lesson. If I pick something up, conflict begins. And that is how mild object stealing can slowly evolve into tension, evasiveness, or resource guarding. That brings us to the third layer, instinct, because sometimes your dog isn't trying to comfort itself, and it isn't trying to manipulate your attention. Sometimes your dog is just doing what generations of breeding prepared it to enjoy. A retriever carrying your glove through the garden is not a mystery. A terrier grabbing and shaking a cushion is not random. A herding dog staring at moving objects, tracking motion, and becoming obsessed with control is not being dramatic. Different dogs are built with different parts of the behavioral chain turned up or turned down. Some were shaped to carry softly, some to chase, some to grip, some to scan movement, some to persist long after the average dog would have lost interest. And in a modern house, those old systems do not disappear. They just attach themselves to your laundry, your shoes, your pillows, your kids' toys, your grocery bags, your socks, and anything else portable enough to become a substitute job. This is why one dog gently carries objects all day, and another reduces them to debris in under 30 seconds. They may both be taking things, but they are not expressing the same internal drive. A soft-mouthed carrier often looks proud, focused, even satisfied. A high-arousal destroyer looks different, faster breathing, harder eyes, more frantic movement, less settling, more tearing, ripping, and repetitive chewing. That difference is one of the most useful things an owner can learn to read. Because carrying and destroying are not interchangeable. A dog that collects may need outlets for holding, fetching, searching, or nesting. A dog that shreds may need decompression, mental work, chewing outlets, more structured exercise, or help with stress. And then there's food. Food theft deserves its own category because it reveals something surprisingly sophisticated. Many dogs are not just impulsive around food, they are strategic around food. That's why some dogs leave the counter alone while you're standing there, then move in the second you step away. That's why others wait until your back is turned, or approach from the angle you're least likely to notice. It can look like disobedience, but often it is sensitivity to opportunity. Your dog is not only tracking the sandwich, it's tracking access, distance, timing, whether you're looking, how quickly you react, whether this environment has paid off before. That means countersurfing is rarely solved by repeating no louder. So it is solved by changing the setup and changing the rehearsal history. Because every successful theft is practice. Every stolen slice of pizza is a lesson your dog remembers. Kitchen counters produce jackpots. This is why management matters so much more than people want it to. Clear surfaces, closed doors, baby gates, food never left within reach, and training that teaches the dog what to do instead of gambling on what you hope it won't do. And now, we get to one of the most frustrating parts of all of this. Why your dog ignores its own toys and goes straight for your things. A lot of the time the answer is simple. Novelty. Your dog's chew has been there all week. Your shoe smells new today. The delivery box just arrived. The towel you dropped has a different texture. The grocery bag carries 10 fresh scents from the outside world. Your belongings are not always more valuable. They are often just more interesting in the moment. That is why owners sometimes buy more and more toys and feel confused when the dog still chooses the forbidden item. Because enrichment is not just about quantity. It's about rotation, variation, texture, scent, challenge, timing. A dog that has access to the same objects in the same way every day can start finding the living room more exciting than the toy basket. So if you want the stealing to go down, one of the smartest moves is not punishment. It's making legal options more compelling. Rotate toys instead of leaving them all out. Use scent games, scatter feeding, search games, frozen food puzzles, short training sessions that ask the dog to think. Structured retrieval if your dog loves caring. Shredding stations with safe materials if your dog loves tearing. When the brain has somewhere appropriate to go, your belongings become less magnetic. Not always, but often enough to matter. There's another phase where stealing can suddenly seem relentless. Adolescence. If your dog is somewhere between puppyhood and full maturity, you may feel like you live with a talented little criminal. Yesterday, it listened. Today, it's testing everything. It steals when you're watching. It steals when you're not watching. It appears to understand the rules and then make a personal decision to ignore them. That phase can feel personal. But it usually isn't. Adolescent dogs are often louder in their behavior, quicker to explore, slower to regulate, and more likely to push at boundaries they seem to understand a month earlier. This is where owners often become inconsistent. One day patient, the next day exhausted. One day reinforcing good choices, the next day chasing the dog because they just cannot do this again. That inconsistency is understandable, but adolescence is exactly when clarity matters most. Fewer chances to rehearse bad habits, more structure, more predictable games, more decompression, more management, shorter expectations, better setups. Not because your dog is failing, because the brain in front of you is still under construction. And then there's the line every owner needs to know, the line between annoying behavior and concerning behavior. Because not everything belongs in the category of dogs being dogs. If your dog carries objects, that's one thing. If your dog destroys objects occasionally, that's another. But if your dog is repeatedly swallowing fabric, plastic, wood, rocks, pieces of toys, underwear, or anything non-food, that moves into a very different conversation. Especially if it's escalating, especially if it's hard to interrupt, especially if you notice vomiting, lethargy, appetite changes, weight loss, discomfort, or frantic scavenging that feels compulsive rather than playful. At that point, the question is no longer just behavioral. And this is where a lot of owners lose time by assuming it's all a training issue. Sometimes repeated ingestion is driven by stress or impulsivity. Sometimes it overlaps with medical discomfort. Sometimes it starts as one thing and becomes another. That's why the safest mindset is this: carrying is information. Chewing is information. Destroying is information. Swallowing is a warning. And once swallowing becomes part of the pattern, support matters faster. So how do you tell the difference between the major types? Here's a practical way to think about it. If the dog takes your item and settles with it, think comfort. If the dog takes your item and watches for your reaction, think social reinforcement. If the dog takes your item and carries it with proud, focused energy, think instinct plus opportunity. If the dog takes your item and shreds it in a high energy state, think arousal, frustration, stress, boredom, or unmet needs. If the dog repeatedly consumes what it takes, think support. Not shame, not anger. Support. And no, that doesn't mean every odd behavior is a crisis. It means the behavior is more readable than it first appears. That's the hidden part. The part most people miss. Dogs are not just acting. They are revealing. A stolen sock can reveal attachment. A stolen remote can reveal a learned game. A destroyed pillow can reveal overload. A missing sandwich can reveal timing, rehearsal, and opportunity. A swallowed object can reveal a problem that deserves more than discipline. And once you stop asking, why is my dog being bad? You can finally start asking a better question. What state was my dog in when this made sense? That question leads to better training, better prevention, better empathy, and much better decisions in the moment. So the next time your dog walks off with something that belongs to you, pause before you label it. Look at the body. Look at the pattern. Look at what happens after. Look at whether the dog wants comfort, engagement, action, destruction, or relief. Because behavior is rarely random. It's a message delivered in movement, and if you learn how to read it, your dog starts becoming much easier to understand. This is Mr. Hidden Mind. We don't just watch behavior here, we decode what's hiding underneath it. If you've ever had a dog steal something strange, drop it in the comments. And if you want more videos that uncover the hidden psychology behind everyday animal behavior, stay close. There's always more going on beneath the surface than it first appears.